Right, welcome and thank you everyone for another Twitter space. Today is July 12th, 2022, and this is episode 9 of the ledgerscale Internet of Value Open Forum. Now, ledgerscale Foundation was founded with two goals in mind. One, we want to provide educational services to not only our community, but to scale up the number of brains that understand how distributed ledger technology works. And two, we intend to one day run hardware to provide infrastructural support to the distributed ledger technology networks that we believe are ESG friendly and running a form of decentralized consensus. We host these spaces Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, starting at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time, and on Wednesday of 5 to 6. If you could just give us a follow on Twitter, and if you could retweet the space when you give it a listen, so that everybody who may listen in the future has an easy way to get to the space.
Yeah, and the reason we're here on Twitter is to engage the community. So please, anybody has a question, raise your hand. And if you're curious about something, I'm sure somebody else is, if not more than one person. So it's an open forum, and we encourage everybody to speak up and ask anything. So, gosh, I've been looking at so much stuff today. I'm trying to even think what I looked at or what's been happening. It's just on the Uphold. I'm not really sure, honestly, what they were talking about. But I was on the Uphold chat, and they were. I mean, I kind of knew what they were talking about, but it also at the same time, I wasn't really sure exactly what sort of projects they were. It was a little bit weird, honestly. Here, let me invite some other folks to speak up. Yeah, they were talking about Hashgraph and what was the other thing? Something that Uphold was working on with bringing projects to the exchange. I think there was that topic.
Hey, Karma. Hey, Dad.
I don't know.
Where are you guys?
I didn't understand. Like, you know how sometimes we get in. Hey, what's up, Tony? You know how sometimes we get into conversations in here, and there's like we're talking about how something or another works. Like it wasn't like that. So I don't know. I was only halfway listening too.
Hey, boys.
Karma, you thought Oh, sorry, Dad. You wanted to say something?
No, it was me, Tony.
Oh, hey, Ghost. How are you?
Good.
I was just asking, Karma, did you get a chance to talk to him, by the way, Dr. Heisbeck, about having him on the space?
Yeah, he's going to be on next Wednesday.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Not what, tomorrow, but next week.
Okay, that sounds good.
Tomorrow, I think this is actually gonna be difficult, but I think we're gonna try and like do like a stick to the basics. Like just maybe some wallets and things. But see, I haven't hands-on played with a lot of this stuff. But I think it's probably a good idea to do some basic stuff. If you can mute if you're not talking, there's some kind of background noise. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think I think we'll try and do that.
Yeah, I was in that same talk as you, Karma, with regards to hypergraph. Part of the reason why I had that is I know I'm in Uphold, and they sent out a tweet that they now can trade DAG and ADS, which is Alchemy, which is it runs on the same Constellation DAG protocol that allows for a decentralization of how ads and monetization comes about, or ads exchange monetization comes about within that industry, and that'll be running on the same sort of protocol. It's an interesting project because I've been following DAG for quite some time, um, and it's got interesting prospects of how consensus comes about and how scalability comes about in that protocol. So that's something I've been watching for quite some time. What's more interesting is how Uphold sort of gets these projects that a lot of people don't know about, but they're such quality projects. Origin Trail, one of the things I've been following for quite some time because of Greg Kidd's, or backing for that project. Was also outed with Uphold. So uh, I see it Uphold as a interesting sort of broker exchange sort of a model that seems like they're on top of things when finding and offering these quality kinds of projects. So, but yeah, that doctor guy seems interesting too. I'm not sure I'm buying everything he sells. Um, I've heard him talk for quite some time now, and some of his views are pretty on point. Some I'm not too sure if I agree, but yeah, it was
Yeah,
interesting.
I was listening on the chat, and then he also had one last week. I think he has these once a week with Uphold, and I believe it was 2 weeks ago where he was talking about the market and how Uphold is different than all the other exchanges because some people were wondering about what's going on right now in crypto, how it's dangerous, and you don't know which exchanges are going to survive.
Well, I mean,
So
they're technically not an exchange.
a brokerage firm, my bad.
Brokerage, yeah.
And so he was saying what the difference was, and you know how a lot of exchanges they play with your coins, your assets. So they'll borrow them, they'll take them and borrow them to other exchanges. Whereas at Uphold, that they don't do that. So I mean, that was cool to hear. To have assurance as to where you can put your money in. Like I was more once I heard that, I was more comfortable putting in all my fiat into Uphold. But the one thing like Ghost says, not everything he says I would agree with. One of the things that he did say once in a space was that he believes that we could rebound. Not just the economy, but the crypto market from here on out. But I just don't see a rebound anytime soon. Maybe a huge bear trap, but I don't see us rebounding.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that, Tony. I think there's still just so many levers that can be pulled with this potential rebound, until that plays out in the first, second quarter next year. I'm actually holding and staying still. I want to see what the CPI number prints, and I want to see if the Fed pivots to their current, policies. If they start printing money sometime next year because of, say, potential civil unrest, then there's potentially a bull run that could happen with that pivot, right? But at this point, with interest rates, and if CPI comes in at 9 or higher, which some are projecting to do, I think it freaks out the market, at least for the next, you know, 6 to 12 months, until they tame that inflation monster. And then you have to watch the jobs reports that come out and sort of align that with what's happening, because and realize there's a lag indicator. That's a lag indicator of what's really happening, right? Um, so it'll be interesting, but yeah, Uphold, man. I don't know. I mean, it's it. mean, I use the interface, and it's an interesting interface, and I know they make a ton of money on the spreads, at least from a best execution perspective. They're not the best execution when it boils down to these trades, right? And I understand their broker model, and that's where they make their money from. But it's expensive, right? But nobody sees the expense. So it's a great model for people coming into the market. They don't care about that, whatever, 10, 20 basis point difference between different, avenues of, on ramps. And I think they're going to be there for a long time if they have the exit, sort of off ramp to this via the uphold card. I think the once it gains traction, it's definitely a solid investment, even from an equities perspective or a private equity perspective, if you want to hold uphold.
I like Uphold because you can exchange. I mean, I don't have to. You don't have to have stable coins. Your money in stable coins. You can convert it into USD. So I converted my USDC to USD, and I feel like that's a lot more secure than any stable coin out there.
Yeah. So if I'm not mistaken, right? So other than the fact that they're just a brokerage, they're not actually an exchange. They hold. So if you have a credit with them, right? If you have the tokens with them, they hold that in it's cold storage. Do you guys either know that for sure? But if that's like the case, that they also hold cold storage for any time that you're using any of like their platform, and that you hold tokens on their platform, I think that's like really safe in my opinion.
Wait, so is there a way of knowing exactly what they hold on cold storage? Like if my
Unless
US,
You could check on Ledger and see, like, if they have a multi-wallet structure for custody purposes.
yeah, you'd
well, I
have
mean that's
to
that
Like,
the only reason why I put any money on Uphold or any exchange for that matter is because if something does happen to the market, last time it did was I believe in November where we had a huge dump just out of nowhere, and then it took forever for that money to arrive to an exchange. It took about almost 2 hours.
I mean, I would think they would have a cold, warm, hot wallet at a minimum set up with probably multi-sig. So, you know what their hot wallet is, right? So if you can find, a wallet that's made a bunch of deposits, probably in round numbers, that also has multi-sig on it, that's probably the warm wallet. And then look at that wallet and see, if it's how it's moving. And you probably want to look, you can make the circle, right? So the new crypto asset comes into the hot wallet. Okay. Customer deposit. So then you're going to move it to the cold wallet. So you can look for that to complete the path. But then to backtrace the path, you would go from the hot wallet, find the warm wallet, find the cold wallet that's depositing to the warm wallet, right? Then make sure that that cold wallet has deposits from the hot wallet. Okay, now you've completed the circle. That's how you would figure that out. But I mean, it's all on the public ledger, so somebody with the skills like FOMO could probably figure that out.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'd have to look into it. I just feel right now that some of the stuff Dr. Heisberg said on that space made me more confident in holding my stuff and Uphold.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Uphold and Greg Kidd, but the thing is, I was trying to use Uphold, and I can't get the two-factor authentication reset. So I understand they're obviously trying to protect my security. Like I appreciate that, but at the same time, if I can't get into the account, just because my old phone died and I can't access the Google Authenticator on it, people lose their phones. Like, you can't lose access to your account because you lost your phone. There's a logical problem there.
They weren't able to help you or anything?
I was about to say I was able to disable it
No.
last time before.
No, I mean, I worked on it for a couple of days. I mean, I didn't like work super hard on it, but I worked on it for a couple of days and, communicating with them, and it just wanted to shove me down like an automated thing, but the automated thing like doesn't let you, reasonably so, doesn't let you, change the device, right? Because like let's say I want to steal your money and I hacked your password and whatever. If I can get the two-factor changed over to my phone, like on the Google Authenticator, then like boom, I'm in your account. So
So
I get that there's a
Yeah, just real quick, Karma, they are completely revamping that with a facial recognition system that will cut the error rate on that problem. I just got the email as a VIP member, so it's going to be a whole new system coming here very soon.
Oh, thank you for coming up, Kosh.
Yeah, I appreciate that update. I'm not a VIP or anything, but so I didn't hear any of that. But yeah, I mean, I kind of really hit a brick wall there.
So I just did a quick search on Google, and it's Uphold states that 90% of all crypto that they hold is in cold storage.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
That makes sense though, because think about it. A lot of people, okay, think about it this way. There's your indication for how many people are just holding. Right? Now, I don't know what their balance is. It's probably a lot. But most people are just holding. And this is not fractional reserve banking, but in some sense, the way the fractional reserve banking model came about is because the bankers realized, well, most people just kind of leave their money sitting here in the safe. So if I loan some out, I can charge some interest, and you come up with that business model. I'd look at that more as an indication that 90 something percent, 99 something percent of people are just holding, which isn't even like the best indication because you'd really want to see a lot of flow. You would want to see a lot of, but that other like 1% could be quite a lot. I mean, if they've got billions of XRP, let's say they got a billion XRP, what's 1%? 10
But
million?
yeah, I mean it's 10%. 10% is what they hold outside of cold wallets. It's
Okay,
10%. But I mean, I'm
so
trying to find out what that 10% is.
well, do they give you the cold wallet address?
Uh, yeah, but I mean, I don't see
Well,
as
then
to
just
what they hold.
go check the cold wallet address and see what the balance is, and then you'll have an idea of 10%. How much flow that is on a daily. That's more interesting to me. How much value flow is going on like a daily basis. But are they actually give you the cold wallet address? I would probably think they would kind of not publicize that
No,
for
I don't.
security
I mean, I'm
purposes.
looking right now on the app and also on Google. I can't find anything that says that. But yeah, I'm trying to find out as to what that 10% is. I mean, just in case, not
Well,
trying to be overly
yeah.
paranoid here, but yeah, I just want to make sure.
No, I'd be just curious. Not nothing paranoid, just curious. Like, okay, 10%. 10% of what? $100, $1,000,000, $1,000,000,000? Like how
But they
much
said
how much flow are we talking about?
of all crypto they hold, 10% isn't. It's outside cold storage.
I mean, that seems very
It seems
reasonable.
good, yeah. I mean, like that said, that's great, but I still want to know what that 10% is.
Hot storage, hot wallet, maybe. Right. So what's moving? What's moving through the exchange?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just wondering if that. Well, I mean, again, I don't think it really matters, right? If they're not playing around with your coins
As well
like
as
other
they're not
exchanges.
taking leveraged positions on the value that they hold. Yeah, like this is the
Yeah,
problem with exchanges is they say, oh, we have like a million tokens of this one currency. This is the value. Can we take like a leveraged position on something else? Like and that's why I think we see so many of the exchanges going down.
yeah, because they keep playing around with everything, with people's money, and then like Celsius. I don't know if you guys discuss it yesterday or the day before. about how it looks like they're paying off the debt that they owe by a lot. But it
Yeah.
looks like they're using people's crypto or their assets to pay that off. And then they said that people would only receive a fraction of what they had.
Oof. They're dead in the water. I mean, nobody's ever going to use them again. Like whether they try and get their debts away or not, this is like it's like business suicide, right? It's already over for them.
Because where are they getting that money from? They were apparently broke, and they sold everything that they had that was liquid. So the only money that they had or anything of value was people's coins, right? So it looks like they used people's coins to pay that off, and they still have about another 123 or 93 million dollars left. They still have to pay. So, and then it's interesting if they pay that off completely, then are we going to see someone try to scoop in and buy it?
Well, that's all we know, at least publicly, right? That they've released that they owe.
Then you look at the other guys, 3AC, they escaped Singapore, and now they don't know where. Nobody knows where they are. Not even their lawyers.
Who are you talking about, Doquam?
3AC.
Whoa.
Yeah, you guys did it. Yeah, it was. I think someone posted it. I think 2 days ago, 3 days ago, and their lawyer stated that they don't even know where they are. So no one knows where they are.
Yeah, that's the contagion that's going on with Voyager right now, because they lent a considerable amount of BTC and USDC to 3AC, and even though FTX has given them an open line of credit, they're filing for bankruptcy because they can't retrieve that BTC or USDC at this point. So it's interesting who else may be involved that hasn't been seen yet with regards to getting liquidated. Voyager's pretty much on the ball in this because they're publicly traded, so they've had to sort of go through the process sooner rather than later. But if I'm an exchange that doesn't have the same sort of guidelines as Voyager, then I can hold out until I see what plays out, right? So I might be dead in the water, but nobody knows I'm dead in the water.
Exactly. So we're seeing right now exactly the first people to fall, but then when are we going to see who else is also part of this domino? What other dominoes are going to fall? So in his space that he had with Uphold, Dr. Heisberg a couple of weeks ago said he doesn't. I would ask him this again next Wednesday, but he stated that he doesn't believe that we're going to see banks, U.S. banks or large institutions really be involved in this contagion. But I think we will at one point. It may not be now or tomorrow, but eventually I think we will. And then
I agree, Tony.
that's when I think that the really ugly part is going to be shown.
I think even before we get on the banking sector that's might be exposed to all this stuff is you have to look at FTX's exposure, right? Let's assume they are in play with regards to shorting Celsius, so they have exposure there. And if they have the last count was 2 billion worth of liquid assets to prop up whatever exchange that they may be backing, how does that play out? Presuming we get further liquidations on the BTC side, and further sort of margin calls on some of the people that are in BTC longs and shorts, right? If we lose 19,000 and assume the next level of support for Bitcoin somewhere around the 12 range, right, or even 20 to 10, right? That's half of the value of FTX's book to 2 billion to 1 billion. Are they in a position to save every single exchange that they may think have a good chance of coming into play? And then if that contagion continues, and say that this is the mother of all sort of uh, bubbles happening to crypto, do we go on a Bitcoin at 5,000, similar to what we saw in COVID days? And now does that affect the same sort of structure that's been happening with 3AC and all this contagion, right? And that's all the pieces why I think, at least from a risk reward ratio right now, I'm holding back and really watching the market and see what happens on the macro level before I start to go, okay, well, this is an investable product at this point. Sure, it's interesting for me to take a look at a Celsius and say, where are the numbers for a potential short squeeze in that, and what is the exit liquidity of Machinsky, right? It's very interesting because if Celsius's actual supply is allocated considerably and distributed accordingly through its community, and Celsius doesn't have a lot of it, then the short squeeze play could be in play. But given the fact that Mashinsky can sort of, at any time in this play, you know, drop inventory or drop sell tokens at $50 versus what they're asking the Celsius to do: buy small amount of Celsius, put it on 1 inch, put a limit sell order there for $100, right? That's been going on for about a month now. What these guys are pushing is like, okay, well, this is kind of like a GME squeeze, right? But GME hasn't really squeezed yet, is my perspective. So even if you go back to Celsius perspective, you they have so many ways that management can f them up, right? Like I said, well, maybe I'll sell my limit order at 99, or maybe Karma will sell the limit order at 98, right? And then I fill that short coins needed by people that shorted the actual coin. So yeah, a lot of things are in play. I've just been watching the market, man, but it's really been interesting over the last couple of weeks, even though it's been
I think,
quiet for price.
yeah, you're right, Ghost. I think one of the first things I learned in finance was when I was a kid is the more money you throw at something, the more worse it gets, and I mean, it's as simple as that. FTX is throwing money left and right at these exchanges trying to prevent something catastrophic, but I think they're only delaying the inevitable.
Well, what the really
Yeah, and no institutional buyers for BTC either, right? Who's seen any institutional buyers? I mean, apart from what's his name, MicroStrategy guy. What institutional buyers is scooping this stuff up at 20,000?
the institutional guys, I think, already have their money in from like say.
Ooh, you sound like a
I
robot,
do?
Karma.
Hang on.
Yeah,
Darth Vader.
that's it, right? With static
Is that any
Darth
better?
Vader though.
No.
No.
Hang on. I don't know what to do. Let me log out. I'll log back in.
Okay. Yeah, and by the way, if anybody in the audience wants to come up and speak with us, please feel free to hit the request. Do you have any questions, topics? Also about the uphold thing, I forgot to even bring up that ODL. I don't know if you guys said anything about that, but the fact that they're using ODL through them for e-liquid corridors, I think is huge. I'm interested to actually speak about that, Kashta, if you know any more details about like the corridors that they're going to be targeting exactly.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm in a loud spot, but if you could look at Erie's video, it will kind of tell you.
All right, yeah. After the space, I'll give her video a watch. I typically try and watch them in the morning, but if I'm already working and it wasn't posted, I usually don't see it. And if everyone could retweet the space also, just so we could probably get more people in here, have more topics, more questions, more conversation.
So, Death, on the ODL thing to illiquid corridors, pretty well guarantee you that's going to be likely using ODL and XRP liquidity.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I think, I mean, they didn't really say that, or at least I did see Erie's video. I don't think she really said that, but if you kind of just think about, well, how can you do that? That's the best way that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm sure there's other ways to do that, but you got to have the thing with like bridge currency methods is you only have to have a liquidity provider between XRP and whatever the fiat is. It could be some like Malagasy. I don't even know what their money's called. Malagasy something or another. Then, one little bit of liquidity and you're good.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, though, Karma. They're actually holding a lot of reserves of those exotic fiats already. to do the payout, so they can kind of market make within house.
Yeah, they're in an interesting position to be an ODL client. I'm really interested. Interested to see her video because I want to find out the exact corridors that they're going to be targeting because obviously Ripple has spread their roots out with ODL pretty well all over the world, and it's like the more corridors that they get, and especially the more exotic corridors that they can get, as we would call it, I think it's really influential.
Yeah, and the thing is also, it's classic innovation, right? Like so the innovator comes in and services a segment of the market that the incumbents don't do very well. Okay, so if you've got an illiquid corridor, the fact that it's called illiquid kind of tells you like, it's not getting done real well. So you start there. Generally the innovation starts in that market segment, and then it grows up and starts kind of pushing the incumbents back a little bit and maybe taking some of the market share from them. I'm talking about the technology, not a company, just the method, the business model, basically. So it's not entirely surprising to see it start with the illiquid corridors. I mean, that's a natural, that's, to me anyway, that makes sense.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, David. How you doing?
Fine, guys. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
I just stumbled up on this. It's about adding a new transaction type to the EVM to achieve a hybrid post-quantum digital signature. And then there's NEST, but I never knew of that. But that's National Institute of Standards and Technology.
Yeah, so this is something that Hugo recently put out in the Flare team that I was so interested in too, because it's a lot like what Evernote is kind of. It's the ability to have, and you could use this like I'll use an example of like personal information, right? The ability to have your personal information stored off chain or have a signature that's like signifies that this actual NFT is 100% like the actual authenticated one that points to the IPFS, right? You can create a signature on an off chain that you can validate on chain that says 100% that this is the actual one. And so it was weird. We were talking to a politician, DM. That was your space actually last night, right? That woman. And so
Yes.
one of the ideas she had, right, about like the IDs using the blockchain, right? The only way that you'd have that true verification that this NFT represents this ID and that other people can't just point to the IPFS is having that digital signature off chain, validated on chain, which people could double check. But it also takes having a third party that's authenticated, and then maybe having a fourth party that authenticates the third party to prove that everything is legit. But yeah, I think it's huge.
Thanks, Def. Yeah, I just stumbled up, and thank you for your explanation.
No, thank you for bringing it up too, because it's something I completely forgot to talk about for the last I think it's been out for like almost a week now. That information, and I know people are a little bit sour about. I guess Hugo, you didn't even. It's not like they're making any changes, but they've just announced that there's a possibility that they're gonna release amendment, and we're gonna be able to change for the different way that the tokens are dropped, the distribution wise. But the people who used exchanges, if the exchanges slack, right, there's a possibility people could lose out.
So that I've been asked a few times in other spaces as to when then the Flare will launch. What's the update on that? Did July 4th passed? What happened then, and then what's scheduled for down the road?
Sorry, I was just trying to get Karma back up here. So July 4th was they began the smart contract audit for the actual what's the word? To the distribute the tokens. Sorry. So July 4th was the audit started for the distribution of the tokens. They were supposed to start the network, which really just be like the Flare team running it for the time being. And like have the first block mined. I heard yesterday that they didn't. They were supposed to do it on the 11th. So who knows? Maybe they started it today. But there's a minimum of 8 weeks from the July 11th date, so that they will have before the distribution of tokens. The network itself will be sufficiently decentralized, where the Flare team is running less than 33% of the consensus when the tokens are dropped. So essentially, we will get our distribution from a decentralized network. Right? It's cool. It's cool to think about in that aspect. I think they did it for multiple reasons, especially in the eyes of the law. I guess this is probably their safest route to say we had nothing to do with this. And
what was sorry, what was the company's name or the project website?
For what?
The one you're talking about?
Flare?
Oh, no, the one before. Sorry, I was cutting in and out. The health records.
I don't think we were talking about any company, but we had I was in a space last night that DM hosted, and we had a politician that joined. She was a U.S. Congresswoman from Ohio.
No, she's great.
I
know what you're talking about.
Oh, you've seen her around, so she's been in the space.
Yeah, she's been in a lot of spaces lately.
Interesting.
She's great. She thinks transparency and trust in the government can be addressed with blockchain.
She thinks everything can. No offense, right? But she thinks everything can be addressed with blockchain. I kind of pressed her on some issues because there were some things she was saying that blockchain can solve, which blockchain cannot solve. There's a lot of. And
are one of those issues voting? Elections?
No, voting. I think voting would be a great thing from blockchain, but the thing is that
I don't know. But I mean, I'm asking if that's one of the issues she believes that could be resolved with blockchain.
Yeah, I agree, and I do agree with that. But see, the thing is like there would still need to be third party and fourth party audits, right? And so all the 50 states are broken up and have their own regimes, and so you'd have third party and fourth party audits throughout all 50 states. I mean, there's still just too much room for error. There's no reason to spend all the money to go to a more advanced system when you're not having a definitive answer or not. The one thing that would change that is having like a federal oversight over all of it. So there's just like one rule of law for like one blockchain that's used, one company that does a third party audit, one company that does a fourth party audit, and everything is exposed to everybody in the country. Highly doubted to probably ever happen.
Well, pun intended, but what you would do, because it is actually not, that's a good point you made about the state level stuff, is you would, it'd be like a federated system, like federated side chains. So you'd have 50 different side chains. They could all be tallied up on one sort of main net. And then it's all public data anyway, right? Anonymized, obviously, but then you just have, 2 or 3 auditors. They write some code that is basically just like a block explorer.
Yeah,
and so, there you go.
Well, so the human error would come in. So how do you validate that the votes that are coming from all of these entities are actually 100% legit people who are doing that vote? And so that's still like a human aspect. Like, how do we take the human out of it so that there can't be like some sort of corruption still? Because yes, the validation, yes, the vote is on the blockchain, but how do we know that like that was the actual person behind that and they're even still alive? Like they're not a dead person that somebody's using their social security or something. It's still like a.
Well, first thing I would say to that is this is one of these things where kind of I feel like sometimes finance people think a little different than others. You got to say, well, how good is the security now, right? You got to only do better than that. So, like right now, I know when I go vote, like, what do I show them an ID and they look me up in a computer? God knows where that database is. It doesn't seem real high security from my experience. I mean, I don't know how other places do it, but
Definitely not. Yeah, it's paper ballots, right? Anybody can manipulate that. But let's just say we're going to spend all this money to move to this more advanced blockchain system. We better make sure that it's like definitively 100% not able to be manipulated. Because what's the, why do all the hard work then? But GDLT, you had your hand up for a while. Go ahead, man. Thank you for raising it.
Yeah, no worries, and thanks for having me on. As always good hanging out with y'all. I don't know if you guys have heard the news coming out today from the BIS Innovation Hub or the G20 Tech Sprint that's going on for CBDC challenges. They announced their top 21 finalists today on the BIS website, and 3 of the finalists of the 21, they narrowed it down from 100 to 21. 3 of them are R3, Ripple, and Stellar. So they're 3 of the 21 finalists. They're going to be announcing the winner in October. So I'm very excited to hear what comes from that. So we're keeping up with it. But today they announced the 21 finalists.
What was that for?
For the BIS Innovation Hub and the Bank of Indonesia are sponsoring the CBDC challenge for the G20 Tech Sprint event. And it's leading into the G20 event as well. So they've narrowed down the CBDC challenge led by the Bank of International Settlements and the Bank of Indonesia. They've narrowed it down to 21 finalists, and 3 of them are Ripple, R3, and Stellar.
The GDLT, is there is that on the BIS website or their Twitter account?
It's on their BIS website, yes. You may be able to find it on their Twitter account. It'll say the G20 Tech Sprint finalists. I'm sure you can search it on Google. My YouTube channel just posted up about it as well, showing the website and everything.
Just a little subtle observation there. They called it the DLT.
They do acknowledge DLT, but they said the 21 finalists for the CBDC challenge. So it's a challenge for, amongst these parties to see who can do distribution of CBDCs and provide the best solutions for CBDCs.
It says the winners will be announced in October ahead of the G20 summit.
Yep.
So just for folks that maybe don't know, Ripple coined the term DLT.
Yeah, they did.
So if you start hearing these banks or like the BIS and they start using the term DLT, you can kind of read between the lines and say, well, okay, they're kind of what direction they're thinking.
Yep, and also the first ones to tackle cross-border payments as a major problem with DLT, right? Or providing DLT as a solution. Also the first DEX ever created, right? To tokenize anything of value on this distributed ledger technology. CBDCs are going to be one of those.
Well, I think CBDCs will be side chains. Actually, that's going to be the focus of next Wednesday's chat with Dr. Martin from Uphold. We're going to try and focus on CBDCs. So that'll be interesting. I'm excited about that.
Awesome.
So it says here the problem statements prompted participants to develop solutions to build effective and robust means to issue, distribute, and transfer CBDCs, to enable financial inclusion, and to improve interoperability and better connect payment systems.
Sounds like a bridge asset.
The shortlisted teams demonstrated their solutions to Bank of Indonesia, the BIS, and experts invited from central banks around the world. They also participated in the CBDC Masterclass to glean practical insights into some of the CBDC experiments underway at the BIS Innovation Hub.
And these are the top 21 across the world, you guys. Like across the whole world, these are the top 21 that the BIS things are providing the best solutions for CBDC challenge. And they've already acknowledged Mojaloop, which is sponsored by Ripple and Coil and many other big companies, as the winner of the ISO 20022 hackathon that the BIS held a year ago with Swift. So keeping that in mind.
Mojaloop is based off of Interledger Protocol. It's just Bill Gates' thing. And then the other thing is, I got criticized for this back in the day. People brought up central banks, and I was like, yeah, it'd be great to work with central banks. Like, the buck stops there. But really, the BIS is the central bank of central banks.
Yep.
Right? So if you're trying to do the whole world, that's where the buck stops, for everything. Like, where, the Bank of International Settlements, right? That's where central banks go to settle up amongst each other.
Karma.
Yep, and if they're identifying for ISO 20022 solutions, Mojaloop and Interledger Protocol being the best to complement that, and then you have Ripple in the top 21, it shows that the BIS does think very highly of Ripple. And of course, Ripple members having been part of events that the BIS is at as well.
I just wanted to sneak this in, but on the photo it says G20 Indonesia 2022. Recover together, recover stronger.
Yep, and if you look at the logo of that G20 tech sprint, if you look at the logo, at the center of it is an X.
The 3 X's. XRP, XDC, and XLM.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see Stellar on there. That made me more bullish on Stellar too.
I'm not. I mean, listen, I clearly know what who the most attractive.
I thought you were going to say that you're not bullish on XLM. That I was about to say.
No, but who do I find the most attractive out of those three? I mean, it's a pretty clear winner for me.
Oh, definitely.
You can't compare the king to the other ones. I agree.
But what's interesting to me with the Stellar one being, like, I'm just amazed that Stellar's even acknowledged, because, like, Stellar could just be viewed as, like, a scam, basically, based on a lot of things they've done in their history, but it's in the top 21. Are you kidding me?
It's not about, they didn't put them there. I mean, because what you're naming is the digital assets, so the tokens, which are just representation of the network. So they're putting it there for a network thing, not like personally anything Stellar, the company or the foundation has done, but it's really just more of like a network thing, which is interesting that they named those three, right? Obviously, XLM, right, are running the same type of consensus. And then I think it's funny that they put XDC there. I mean, I don't know if I was you, but if I was like Brad or somebody at Ripple, I'd probably be like, like you had a whole lawsuit with R3 and then the tokens put on and that like same thing from the BIS. I don't know. I find that funny a little bit.
I know, yeah. R3 has like a ton of XRP too, right? So it's just funny that the Ripple's like, damn, these R3 guys.
X marks the spot. I've been seeing it. I'm not a financial advisor, but X marks the spot.
So yeah, I wanted to share that with you guys because it's like, it just came out today and, I think I'm looking forward to October. Like, just imagine Ripple being announced as the winner of that challenge and then maybe being acknowledged at the G20 as well. Like them saying in reference, Ripple won the tech sprint we just had.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, this is just a dog and pony show for the BIS, right? And signaling of this is the direction that they're moving towards. I actually don't want Ripple to win this because it creates a lot of noise. And I think if you analyze Stellar's work with Ukraine and their testing and XDC's work in order to plug and play different DLTs into a potential CBDC, especially the private sector of XDC for countries that want privacy, like a Saudi Arabia or and Qatar, as an example. It brings interesting dynamics that these are all in play. But again, thanks for sharing that. I didn't even realize that they had this competition. But when I look at this stuff, it's always like a dog and pony show. What are they signaling to, and who are they signaling to when they have these sort of events? And because clearly they know who the winners are, right? I
It's
mean,
like
they're
they're
not.
communicating in it's like
Yeah,
they're communicating in code, right, Ghost?
yeah, exactly. That's all it is, man. I mean, I took a look at the list of some of the names in the 21. I mean, Mastercard's in there. That's a given. I know they've been working with Asia with regards to payments considerably. Some of this stuff I've never heard of. Well, I'll dig, somewhat into them, but not too deeply, just to see what they're doing. But again, man, yeah, that's. I mean, I'm bullish in general, but things like this is always. I always look at it with one eye open and go, okay, what are they really trying to do here with regards to these sort of events? Either or, I think we're in the clear with how this plays out. I mean, even if CBDCs run on Stellar and various other protocols, right? We know what links it, at least from the correspondent banking side and the central banking side.
No, definitely, I understand.
Well, so Ghost, imagine. Okay, so you've got the interledger protocol. So you have your main public net. I'm just going to go with XRP Ledger. Then you got your side chain, your CBDC public side chain, right? Then you have to the side of that side chain another ledger that's just private, right? Like maybe that's your domestic banks, corresponding with each other, and then they settle up on the public EC ledger, right? So and you add in a larger protocol in between each hop. So there's
Right.
ways to layer this stuff.
No, definitely, definitely.
I completely agree, Karma. I think that's how they envision it as well, right? But on top of that, as far as this Federer sidechain is concerned, yes, Ripple may pick up, a variety of countries that run their CBDCs on the XRP ledger or Federer sidechain, whatever that may look like. But it's irrelevant because if you're a distributed ledger or if you're a blockchain, and the fact that we can interoperate with anything of value, at least any of these protocols, efficiently enough, gives us a significant more. Um, uh, we don't need to work as hard. I guess from if I was Ripple, I wouldn't need to work as hard. All I need to do is lay out the framework, how I envision the system to be, right? Explain it to government bodies and movers and shakers on how they envision the network of networks to be, and how it would work with other networks and other protocols. And that's my sell, because I'm not selling it from a smart contract capability. Yes, we have that too, with this protocol, with that protocol, or this and that. I'm selling it from the Rails perspective. This is the main rail that's going to be used. And if they it's almost like, I hate to sound cliche, but they've already won, right? In that sense, unless a magical dark horse comes out of the horizon that has massive amount of liquidity with all the rails and already built in, that have been secret been done over the last 20-30 years. And then then even at that, how do you sell that to the public at that point, right? Here's a government body versus here's a private company that has been working, around the same age or a little bit younger than Bitcoin, that we believe we envision the whole system would work in this sort of way, right?
I think you're right. I actually think Ripple is way far ahead of the game, or much further ahead of the game than a lot of folks, especially in the crypto community, realize.
Definitely.
And yeah, I mean, there's, I'm not going to say nothing's, it's not over till the fat lady sings, if you will. But I can't think of another, or R3 would maybe be the closest, and I can see CBDCs being done using R3's technology. That makes sense.
I mean, Ripple from its inception, though, never wanted to use XRP as a replacement of fiat. So that already shows that they were having intentions of working with a form of fiat, which is probably CBDCs. So they're innovators already in that sense, too, of understanding they're not creating something to replace fiat. They're creating something to transfer value instantly and very cheaply.
Well,
they're looking for
right.
something to replace money, right? I mean, we have to sort of debase, or at least get out of the mindset that currency is money, right? Money is money, right? It's the basis of, derivatives accordingly, right? So their perspective has always been about money, right? What is the money? And money is this just a system, right? It's not US dollars, not yuan, right? So for them to focus on currency is irrelevant. Money is the main factor to this. What defines money? If a system gets rebirth after this, by de facto and organic growth alone, XRP pursue, and I'm not saying this to be true, and I agree with Karma that R3 has probably the best chance given their consortium of really old banks, and they may interact together. They still don't have the reach of Ripple. Don't get me wrong, but they probably got the best chance to compete in this sense. They can plug and play different DLTs to arrive at consensus. But when you talk about money, it's really about a competition from who controls the modern day financial system, right?
Yep.
If you analyze Bitcoin or the idea of Bitcoin, it's really that, right? What is Bitcoiners? Bitcoin as money, right? They're somewhat been misled because the protocol has changed over a significant amount of time, where a lot of these um, large consortium have sort of allowed the core development team to be their puppets in order to move it away from a potential, or in order for them to gain some sort of traction and control of how BTC evolves, right? And that's why BTC people in of themselves have these sort of small civil wars in how they adopt certain protocol changes, right? But if that's the sense of money competition that BTC, the idea of BTC, or the idea of Bitcoin came about, the Ripple's version of working with the old system um, is a very good alternative and a more sensible, realistic perspective on how money would evolve based on a different system that starts off top down versus down up. Um, yeah, I mean, I, we all don't know what will happen in the future, and I'm privy to say that I'm probably wrong. I'm more likely, not seeing all the things around corners and the stuff. But when I look at it, there's really no other protocol or other project out there that's really tackling the issue of money. Yeah, everybody's tackling smart contracts, and you can do this tool, and you can do this solution for this problem, but no protocol apart from BTC and XRP are really tackling what is money and trying to answer that. I mean, That's my
Well,
take.
I like you said one part in there that money is a system. And I'd agree with that because it's just something we made up. I mean, like money doesn't exist. Um, this is the root of my if you're the only man in the world, you don't have all the money, there is no money, right? Like it's a system. So when we talk about like monetary infrastructure and stuff, that's what you're talking about. And yeah, there's nobody. R3 would maybe be the closest. There's nobody else out there talking about like they're working on that. It's not even working on it. I mean, think about it. It's not really in the individual central bank's interest. I mean, the only central bank that would probably have the most interest would be the Fed, the U.S. Fed. But that's more of a defensive play that would have even an interest in kind of re-architecting the global monetary infrastructure. They don't care, right? Like they run their domestic economies. They're not in charge of the world. And R3 is not even really going after or focused on that. And strategically, I do think it's a really good move to focus there because that's going to be your foundational element. Then you can start building things on top of that foundation, right? So now we're seeing NFTs and blah, blah. There'll be more nonsense to come. But yeah.
Ghost, you had mentioned large corporations using like Bitcoin core developers as puppets to change things the way they wanted. Could you give an example of that? I'm not sure I know of any.
No, I'd rather not scam because I know how this discussion begins and ends, and I'm really not in the mood to have this discussion with you. So why don't you just spew your stuff, and I'll be okay listening. I'm more than happy to listen to what you say.
I have zero dispute. It was just a question. You made a claim, and I mean, I don't know any examples of it, so I was interested to hear what you had to say. But if you don't want to back up your claim, that's okay.
Well,
Just start to look in the direction of Blockstream. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to talk about it any further.
Part of the whole reason why XRP Ledger even got built was because the Bitcoin community couldn't make decisions. That was one of the core problems.
Also, I don't see any Bitcoin related things on the top 21 finalists for the BIS CBDC challenge there, or Ethereum.
Well, I'll throw this in. The lawyer for the IMF said in order for a currency to be considered for the basket of the SDR, I'm assuming special drawing right for people that you can Google it if you don't know what that is. It's like an international currency. It has to be used by a country. So I find it really interesting that El Salvador, is it El Salvador? Ecuador? No, El Salvador.
Sure.
Which also uses the US dollar. That's convenient for probably money laundering. Uses Bitcoin as they've called it a currency. Like, I mean, it's just weird. But that's there. So that's real.
NY Crypto, you had your hand up before, man. I'm sorry. Put it down.
No, you guys are good. Can you hear me?
Yes,
It's
sir.
It's a little laggy over here. I'm just gonna make this quick because I got the kids with me. It's really great to see XRP, XDC, and XLM have some form of representation, even though those coins aren't mentioned in the contest. But there's companies that are obviously going to use those three, and it kind of just fuels my idea that each one of those three coins would target a different sector. And the three sectors that I think of are I can only really relate them to like when it comes to buildings. So you have your private sector, which maybe in finance would be like the central banks, maybe some governments, and Ripple could take that. Then you have your consumer or your commercial would be what XDC would be targeting, which would be like the trade, finance, and everything. And then you would have your retail, which or your residential, which is what kind of Stellar looks like they're trying to tackle. And just seeing those three companies on that list kind of just fuels that idea that I have in my mind that those three might be the ones that really that will stay afloat for the next couple of years. I don't know if anybody else has more info or they disagree. You could definitely rebuttal my claim. But yeah, I think those three are really going to be very important for the three layers that our world operates on.
Interesting.
I can see that making sense. I don't know much about XTC, and actually, I was trying to set up. Actually, I still got it up.
So with XDC right now, they have their own DEX, and there are people that are building on it and coming up with like their own coins. They have NFTs also that I don't know if it's gone live, but this year there's been a lot of talk.
Missing.
Can you hear me good or no?
I think you broke up at the last part there.
Oh, sorry. To my understanding, XDC has I think they're going to implement NFTs if they haven't done it already, because I see a lot of artists and I follow a few artists that are building NFT projects off of the XDC network.
Yeah, I think there's smart contract capability that exists on the XDC network. Yeah, and BLK, I think wants to come up. Maybe he might have some knowledge on that. That's what I always go to with XDC. I always know why something was created, how something was created, right? Like, what was the thinking behind the methodology of why somebody did that? Oops, I accidentally muted. Sorry. So when it comes to XDC, it was the fact that R3 and Ripple were partnered, right? And so Ripple in partnership with XD with
You got
sorry,
the robot. You got the robot thing going.
I got the. Oh, you sound like a robot too.
He sounds
No,
fine. It's
Karma.
you,
Karma, I think
Karma.
it's you, Karma. Yeah.
It's like RTD2 man. It's
Yeah, it's you,
right here.
Karma. You're fine.
All right, let me log off and log back in.
That was funny. Oh,
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
yeah, that was bad. So when they designed the R3 system, designed Quarter, right? And then it was the Quarter settler, which was designed to use XRP originally, right? But when R3 saw the benefit and honestly the money that could be made by making their own token and selling and distributing it out, right? R3 was like, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to make our own token then. And so that's why they created the XDC network. And therefore, that's why like Ripple and R3 had that whole lawsuit. But I think R3 kind of walked away with a win. I mean, 1 billion XRP, and they still have all of the, whatever the XDC that they probably originally created and held on to.
I'm not an expert by any means, but I've been following XDC, and it appears that they're going to try and build almost the entire trade finance sector on top of their network. I mean, between Trade Tech, Enigio, and I don't know even how to pronounce it. But like I follow like Andre Casterman. I guess he's been at Swift for over 20 years. Another guy to even follow, Utility. I think his name's Utility Citizen of the Future. But XDC has been catching my eye more and more lately of what they're, I guess, what they're trying to accomplish.
And they use that term, right? And it gets me sometimes because like it's like some projects they use like a specifically like coin a term and they kind of like hype behind it, like the trade finance. But in reality, right, a lot of these blockchains that exist today could probably do that. It's really just the blockchain itself is just used as a validation system, right? There's still a whole system that somebody's building that's their own UI and their whole, their own back end stuff that's going on, which is really where the trade fi comes in. The blockchain is really just validation of the transaction.
And there's in such a great spot too, being based out of Singapore. I don't know if you guys have been to Singapore before, but there's a lot of considerable amount of trade that happens, especially in the ports and trade finance that goes on with that. I mean, XDC is a interesting solution to that whole trade finance problem, especially geographically, as Singapore is a massive trading hub, but also the fact that you can sort of apply the same sort of consensus if you start to look at how bill of ladings work from the security and privacy perspective of the XDC network. Another interesting fact that a lot of people don't know is the XDC was there for quite some time before R3 really realized after the lawsuit. I think this is how it played out, if I recall. Lawsuits happened with Ripple. At some point, R3, realized their mistake with regards to not having a settlement token themselves within their network. So instead of making one, I think what happened was, and correct me if I'm wrong, who's ever in XDC here, is they decided to go with XDC as sort of an integrating partner, similar to how they did with Ripple to test out the quarter system, right? So that'll be interesting how that develops, because if they've been doing the work and behind the back work that needs to be done, and they've actually gotten some traction, I could see them winning this innovation hub more so than Stellar or Ripple, and I'd be okay with that, because I don't think, apart from the rails that Ripple has been building, there's what real innovation is happening with XLS20. Is that count one? Yeah, I think R3 is interesting, and XDC is interesting as far as a project is concerned.
Yeah, I agree with you, Ghost. That was a nice breakdown.
Okay, am I back?
Yes,
Nah,
you're
you're still.
over here. You and R3
Okay.
itself, right, is pretty much the entire Italian banking system, right? Like, if I had to think of like the banking system that exists and incorporates Italy, right, that is R3.
I have all three, so I'm happy either way.
There you go.
So I pinned a tweet on the top. I'm trying to convince Coin Club Quincy to join one of these talks so that he could break down XDC. He's really, really good at breaking it down. He's really smart with smart contracts. If you guys have any willingness to get him on, just retweet mine or you tag him yourself. Let's try to eventually get him in this space and talk. I've also tried to reach out to Andre Casterman, but that's a shot in the dark.
Yeah, I've had calls with Quincy. He's a good guy. I like him. He's super smart. I'd love.
Just got to make sure that he goes.
I'm pretty sure I sent him a DM the other day and invited him on, because we were talking about him the other day in one of these chats, and I was like, he'd be a great person to have on like a Wednesday, like a focus chat or just any time, really. I mean, he knows what he's talking about.
He speaks really fast, dude.
Well,
yeah, he does. He does. Tony.
I was like, dude, I might have to tell you to slow down a little bit. like,
and he gets so excited too. It's funny.
Yeah, he's really passionate about it.
Citizens of the Future, I think he does good breakdown as far as like the infrastructure being built around XDC, and like the membership they're a part of, like I think TFDI, the ICC. I mean, he breaks down like how integral it is with the I guess the trade finance sector or whatever.
But what was his name again?
Citizen. I think it's Citizens of the Future.
Oh yeah, Citizens is a smart guy. He's
Yeah.
player community spaces with us. YouTube and Discord.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to clear up some things with the based in Singapore argument. Ripple has offices in Singapore for quite some time. The Monetary Authority of Singapore has already regulated their stance on XRP. And also Mojaloop, which Ripple and Coil are big parts of with Google Cloud and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They've set up with the Monetary Authority of Singapore a Center for Excellence of CBDCs. They recently announced that just this year. So, I think Ripple has its hands in Singapore more than people would like to think. But that's, just sharing some of the tidbits there.
None of that surprises. I knew some of that, but some of it I didn't know. It's not surprising. That's the thing is, you want to talk about network effect? All these different projects are all building on integrated with each other. It's a very significant
Definitely.
thing.
No, yeah, and I'm not trying to bust, like, I have XDC as well, and I'm just excited to see all three of those on that list, XRP, XLM, XDC. I mean, it just further kind of legitimizes that these are real technologies actually doing some things. I mean, once again, it's the representative companies or associations with it, but, they're focused on DLT technology.
Yeah. Hold on, though. I still have another question. I guess I turned into a robot voice. I'm not a robot voice now, right?
No, you're good.
Okay. Does XDC have like a rotating public key thing? Because I logged into this site and tried to create a wallet. One, I couldn't get my secret key.
What site did you log into? Because I recommend XDC Pay, which you could get on your Chrome extension, or if you use Brave. That would be, I believe that would be the most secure wallet, unless you go through an exchange.
Well, and then the other thing is, it was asking me like, and I know different networks have different cryptography schemes, but it was asking me like what network I wanted to have the wallet generate. What the hell is this thing doing? I guess maybe my Wi-Fi's out, and that's what was going on, because my computer won't even load a web page.
Yeah, I love XDC Pay, how I could just buy it directly and then just send it to my cold storage. It's lovely.
Have you been to the observatory?
Not yet, but
Nice
that's another trip.
interface. Yeah, really good interface.
Yeah.
I can't wait for XSwap. I don't know if their interface has gone live, but once you're able to start minting coins, because there's already people minting coins off of the XDC network. You can see it in Observatory. Right. But once that DX goes live, I think XSwap is going to be a very crucial coin.
I picked some up.
Nice.
Yeah, I picked some up. but no, I'm just happy to see all three in the race. It validates a lot for me. So yeah.
Internet of value, interoperability is key. I like seeing it.
Right, every single piece of the
Let's go.
comes down to making that internet of value. Right, it takes everything. Everything is everything, even the small things, are extremely important. I just want to say we're gonna probably close up the space in a couple minutes, probably a little bit before 5. But if anybody in the audience wants to come up, if anybody has any questions, Solomon just joined. I'm shooting you an invite. BLK, thank you for coming up too, also, and speaking with us. But if anybody wants to come up, last minute questions, yeah, please feel free to come up now. Oh,
well, I got a question. What site should I go to generate a XDC wallet?
Well, you could use Decent if you wanted to just have a wallet to use that has an XDC address.
Decent is great.
Yeah, that's my.
Well, I have one here.
Yeah, I like that. You could always use that and have it on cold storage, Tim.
Just updating it is just always a pain.
But I don't understand. How do you not be able to get your? How can you not get your key pair?
Well, it's all about the wallet just providing it to you. Like, it's not that it's not created. It's just like and I would think of this almost as like a business thing, right? Like, if you buy a wallet from me, I don't want to make sure that you have to write your secret phrase down and your master key down. Like, I'm just going to give you the master key, and so you could access everything. So you don't have to worry about like two individual things. Because most wallets hold multiple. That's like when it comes down to the aspect of like you're having like that singular wallet that only interacts with that one blockchain. I think in that sense, I understand. But yeah, because it's like all wallets typically have multiple chains connected. They just give you like the master key. I'm not sure though, but I think we were talking about this the other day, right? Like, how do you find out that secret phrase? It's really all about the person who created the wallet.
Well, I looked it up, and the ledger won't give you your secret key. That's, I think, kind of not right.
Well, got to make sure people can't steal your stuff, I guess.
Yeah, but still, what if I want to have a backup, right? Like, I guess I've had the paper wallets for so long. I'm like, I'm comfortable with the paper wallet, right? Like, I can put it in different places, and if something happens, if one building burns down, it's not like I've lost everything. I guess you can do the mnemonic key, but I just
you could do what Sam said like 3 years ago. He was like chiseling his private key into fucking pieces of steel and burying them in his backyard. That's probably not the worst idea, to be honest with you, but I don't know how much time you have.
Well, there's a couple already steel, I guess, products that you can actually purchase that you can back up your seed phrase. There's the
you don't want to get steel. You want to get titanium, like a titanium seed vault. I personally have them, bury them all over the place. You can bury them in the ground.
Right.
Separate.
Yeah, they're like.
Yeah, it's probably not though. I mean, how scary is it just based on the fact that like losing a safe that has certain things or a computer that has certain things, I'm starting to think a little bit more about aspects surrounding that as well, and it might sound crazy, but I'd rather sound crazy than not sound safe.
It's like I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it kind of thing, for sure. And there's no question about it. There's one wallet I like particularly, not an advertisement, right? It's called the BC Vault, where you could store the ability to access your wallet is stored on an SD card, and so it's really as safe as the two password combination, one on the device and one on the computer. And so as long as nobody ever finds out, you could have as many SD cards as you want, and you could just spread them across, all over the place. I have them all over the place.
Yeah, especially since XRP is going to $50,000 a coin. So that'll be really interesting if we're all broke, because we can't, we'll be the richest person in every country in this chat right now. So
think about the people, and there's going to be lots of them. If anything like that ever happened, think about the people who have like 100 XRP here, 100 XRP there, and like a locked wallet that they've never. There's going to be a lot of that, I'm sure.
It's never going to happen. But
King, oh, sorry, man. Did you hear the news about the BIS releasing the top 21 finalists for the CBDC challenge? Ripple, Stellar, and R3 are listed on it.
Did that just come out today?
Yeah, it came out today. BIS. It's called the G20 Tech Sprint, led by the BIS and Indonesia Central Bank. They released the top 21 finalists.
Shit, I did not see that. I did see yesterday they put out the Bank for International Settlements, the FCA, OECD. They all put out that October timeframe for regulations coming out. I'll have to take a look.
That's when they're announcing the winner too. That's when they're announcing the winner in October.
Jesus. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look. Thank you, man. I'll have to give you a shout out. That's G who said that, right?
Which one are they?
Yeah, I have it on my YouTube channel too. But yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a shout out, dude, because I did not see that.
DFT, which one? XRB, XDC, and what else?
He said Ripple, Stellar, and who else?
Yeah, R3, Ripple, and Stellar they had a top 100 and they closed it to top 21, which is funny. Why 21 and not top 20? But that's a different conversation. And 3 of them were R3, Ripple, and Stellar.
Not XDC?
They didn't mention like the tokens. They just said Ripple, Stellar, and R3.
Well, we can agree to disagree that R3 will most likely use XDC, so you could put them in that bubble.
You could, but honestly, I would probably, in my mind, would think that if it came down to cross-border payments and they needed a liquidity vessel, right? R3 Corda, the settler, was literally built and designed to have XRP have the most efficiency throughout their system. It only makes sense. Now, it doesn't mean that they will, but it would only make sense that they would if the liquidity was there and the right. If it's the most liquid, that means it is the cheapest and the easiest to move through.
No, I agree because they have 1 billion, correct? Don't they have a supply of 1 billion?
They do, at least, yeah. But now, not to think about all the other products that like ODL and things like that they could use. But yeah, technically, yeah, they do. At least they.
Now, do you believe companies that deal directly with banks and that they deal directly with trade and that they also deal directly with consumers, do you think that they will start to build with all three of those coins, or at least corporations that might be using similar technology? Or do you think banks and companies would just focus on one network? Because if it was up to me and let's say I was an international store and I had a loan system with a bank, but then I also had a loan system with like a shipping container company. I would most likely want to use the coins that are targeting those markets. I wouldn't want to just have one coin, you know?
I mean, you can look at like what Overledger is trying to do right now too. Like Overledger has XinFin connectivity, it has XRPL connectivity, it has I mean, all sorts. If you look at like trade finance with then yeah, it certainly makes sense, but you need to have interoperability from like an operating system standpoint. I think they rebranded from operating system, but yeah.
To answer whoever asked earlier, I was doing the wallet generator. I was trying to use the wallet generator on wallet dot I guess zenfin.network. But it was like it kept trying to rotate the public key. It was like, what the hell? How do you what? That didn't make any sense to me. I mean, I might just trash the thing and do it again, but like, isn't there a GitHub repo or something where I can just get like a wallet generator?
I wish. I mean, somebody has to build the software. So if somebody didn't build it, then there's no way.
Yeah, Karma. I recommend just either doing an exchange, or doing it like what we were saying, just downloading an address on your Decent wallet. Those are the only safe, secure ways I use it. Either XDC Pay, an exchange, or Decent. Every other way, I haven't really seen videos about it or people really talking about it, so I really wouldn't trust it, just to be safe.
Yeah, I just found that. I don't think that there's any other. I'll have to look more, but looking at the short list of teams, so it has 3 problem statements, and this is directly through BIS in Indonesia for the tech sprint. But the first problem statement is issue, distribute, and transfer CBDCs. That's where R3, Ripple, and Stellar fall under. The second problem is solutions to enable financial inclusion. There's probably 7 or 8 other ones there, and the third one is connectivity. This is a really interesting study to fucking go through and be like, all right, what other relationships exist? Because I haven't even heard of some of these ones down here in the problem statements, but I'm sure that there's relationships amongst like multiple different initiatives. So
Connectivity is going to be your ledger protocol. That's your Mojo Loop, ILP, your ILP connectors. That's what these big correspondent banks are going to ultimately become. Like JP Morgan, Citibank, they're going to end up being ILP connectors.
Did anybody not see the thing that I found about? I'm sure other people may have found it. That it's there was like previously like that Sophie initiative through the European Union. That Sophie initiative was definitely underpinned in part, at least, by the ILP, but that moved into this Phoenix Horizon 2020 initiative, which literally talks about providing a cyber shield around the entire European Union smart grid, and Interledger Protocol is definitely within that. Underpinning interoperability between different distributed ledgers, transferring value, some of which could be digital assets, et cetera, et cetera. But that shit's pretty crazy. That trial ends in August. 11 million euros in funding. So,
see, that makes sense. And I forget who it was earlier was talking about, like privacy, and we were talking about stacking different, side chains for privacy and whatnot. But the thing is, with Interledger Protocol, those connectors ledgers, you have the option. They can be private, they could be permissioned, they could be public, right? Like the connector gets to choose how they want to operate a ledger. So this is why the abstraction, because they really took a lot of functionality away with Interledger Protocol. Like it's really boiled down to the very basics.
Well, they talk about that, but they talk about that like in the context of everything that I saw, like kind of this underpinning of ILP, but then connectivity into things like Hyperledger or Quorum or whatever it may be, but kind of being like the root, like kind of like the root system, like underpinning it all. But there was like a couple of PDFs that were like deliverable PDFs. There's the main site, and then June 1st they actually put out like the Euro. I forget where from the Euro put it out, but like the Eurozone put out this long like energy document, and that's one of the initiatives they talked about, which is where they directly they don't say Interledger Protocol, they say Interledger, but then they give the exact kind of description of what Interledger Protocol does. So.
Dude, that's like the funny thing where you see some of these guys over the years, they go on the news channel and they're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. They basically describe XRP Ledger functionalities that like Bitcoin can't do. And then they're like, and it's Bitcoin. And it's like, no. Bitcoin can't do what you just described. You like, you did it. You did a slipperoo there, buddy. I get what you're saying, but like Bitcoin D cannot do that. So it's kind of funny. Like they just won't talk about it.
Yeah, there was a guy from Finastra today that put out, he's a VP of sales for Treasury and Capital Markets in the Middle East, and basically quoted to say, banking as a service represents a $7 trillion opportunity. I just see so many things that like, and that's a fact. I'm not saying that has to be Ripple, but we know Finastra is XRP enabled. There's like a lot of synergy from like kind of I don't want to say that everything has to, and certainly it's not the case. Not everything has to be underpinned by Ripple or the XRP ledger, but a lot of the verbiage that we're seeing now surrounds itself around level playing field. All these, banking the unbanked, $7 trillion opportunity, locked up, Nostro, Vostro, all these things that we see now. It's just really interesting, kind of the narrative that's being presented across the board. So.
Yeah, and it's, the most important thing I would say is like the narrative, the rhetoric coming from all of these large entities, it's all the same. And I think it's, when you see them all moving in the same direction, it's something to look for.
They're like a hive mind.
Well, it tells you that we're in the right space because there's no way that they can do that without using the tech. And it doesn't have to be Ripple tech. It doesn't have to be the XRPL necessarily, but, a lot of the verbiage kind of stems from that. And I do think a lot of what we're seeing is a smokescreen. I don't think that XRP goes to 50,000 or 30, whatever the guy's trying to sell his fucking report for. But I think that's nonsensical. But to think about really all the money that exists in the world, but and I do think that most of the money that exists in the world is going to be not only disrupted but interoperated with these distributed ledgers, and there's going to be a multitude of winners. Then you have to have that interoperability layer, et cetera, but it's just, I think what you were saying, Death, you're 100% right. I mean, the narrative is about as clear as day if you're actually paying attention where this shifts. And I'm just curious how the old system we even saw like BIS say like a month ago that they can't regulate towards parallel rails. They have to regulate towards interoperability because of even now how nascent we are, how ingrained crypto and DLT is with the financial system, which the Fed actually recently, just a week ago, said it's not that ingrained. but the BIS like a month ago said it is. So it's like, fuck, well, you're lying. So.
Yeah, the Fed, and I think specifically the United States, and for, by the way, anybody on the YouTube, if you want to come and join the Twitter, I mean, please feel free to jump on over and join us for the chat. But